Welcome back to the Deep Dive, where we take the familiar, the things you see and use every day, and uncover the layers of research that might, well, fundamentally change how you view them. Today, we are deep diving into one of the most recognized, most ubiquitous items in the global kitchen, the banana.
It truly is the ultimate symbol of effortless health, isn't it? It's cheap, it comes in its own biodegradable wrapper, it's soft, and for, 50 years, it's been universally crowned the king of grab-and-go energy.
Right, and the ideal fruit for everyone, especially for seniors.
Absolutely.
That's the narrative we've all internalized. Instant energy, potassium for muscle cramps, the perfect dietary staple. But our sources today, the clinical research compiled for this deep dive, introduce a surprising and crucial conflict. We are told this fruit is a nutritional superstar, but when we look at the reality of the aging metabolism, for a person over the age of 60 whose metabolism has slowed and whose body is grappling with declining insulin sensitivity, the data suggests this fruit is, and I'm using the terminology directly from the research, a metabolic grenade.
And we have to be very, very specific here about what we're talking about. We are not discussing the hard, slightly green, almost inedible banana you find in the produce section. We are focusing entirely on the version that most people desire. What the sources define as the yellow sugar, the fully ripe, often mushy, completely yellow or brown spotted banana.
It's that state of ripeness that changes everything.
It transforms its entire biological effect, yes.
So our mission today is a complete dismantling of the ripe banana myth. We're going to explain the precise, step-by-step biological mechanisms of how it accelerates fat storage, especially visceral fat.
The fascinating truth behind that misleading potassium claim.
And perhaps most importantly, we will equip you with the essential low glycemic fruit protocol, specific, highly effective alternative that stabilize your energy and fuel your brain rather than crashing it. Let's unpack this scientific deception. We have to start right at the beginning, at the point of chemical transformation. To understand why the bright yellow banana is a hazard, you have to understand what it was just a few days prior when it was green. This is the ripening trap.
What's fascinating here is that the banana begins its life as a safe, healthy food. When it's firm and green, its carbohydrate structure is dominated by something called resistant starch.
Okay, let's unpack that term resistant starch. It sounds very technical, like a special food additive, but essentially it's nature's way of saying this is fiber, not sugar.
That's precisely it. Resistant starch is a kind of dietary superhero because the human body, it lacks the enzymes necessary to break it down.
So we can't digest it like a normal carb.
Not at all. It is not recognized as a typical carbohydrate. Instead of being digested in the stomach or absorbed in the small intestine, it passes through completely unchanged. It mimics the function of dietary fiber.
So it's passing through the upward digestive tract, and what benefit does it deliver then? Where does it go?
Well, it finally lands in the large intestine, or the colon, and this is where the magic happens. It becomes a powerful prebiotic, acting like, high-quality fertilizer for your beneficial gut bacteria.
So the green banana is really food for our gut.
Yes. It's a slow-burn fuel that helps keep your microbiome healthy and stable.
Contrast that with the transition we are all waiting for. That moment the banana turns yellow and soft, that point of peak sweetness. What is happening chemically during that waiting period?
That sweetness that we're all after is the result of a profound internal chemical transformation. As the fruit ages, enzymes naturally present within the banana, chiefly one called amylase, are triggered. Their only job is to break down that large, complex, indigestible resistant starch structure and just chop it up into tiny, simple, easily absorbable sugar molecules, glucose, fructose, and sucrose.
So if you pick up a mushy, spotted banana, what is the resistant starch content at that point? Is there any left?
It has plummeted to almost zero. The entire structure of the fruit has collapsed, the beneficial fiber has degraded, and what remains is a high-density sugar bomb.
A sugar bomb.
And critically, because that fiber matrix is gone, this sugar requires virtually no digestive effort. It hits your tongue, and the sugar molecules are poised for instant absorption into the bloodstream.
And that rapid absorption is the single most critical problem for the aging body, isn't it?
That speed is everything. It is. And this is where we have to factor in the reality of the aging body, which often struggles with insulin resistance.
The core of the metabolic crisis.
This is it. Insulin resistance is an almost inevitable biological consequence of aging, combined with our modern diet and, sedentary habits. The pancreas, for various reasons, either reduces its output of insulin or, more commonly, the cells in the body, primarily your muscle cells, become stubbornly resistant to the insulin signal.
We can visualize this, right? Insulin is the key trying to unlock the cell door so glucose can get inside and be used for energy.
A perfect analogy.
But if the cell door is rusty or locked,
If the cell is resistant, the key doesn't work well. Now, take this already compromised insulin-resistant system and you force-feed it a massive rapid load of sugar, a ripe banana, which sources calculate is up to 93% carbohydrates by calories.
93%.
The system simply breaks down under that load.
The sources state that when a ripe banana is eaten alone, without any buffering fat or protein, the speed and volume of sugar hitting the bloodstream causes a spike that is higher and faster than what you get from something like a glazed donut.
It's an astonishing finding, isn't it?
That's a huge claim. Worse than a donut.
It is. And this instantaneous influx of glucose leads to a dangerous physiological state called postprandial hyperglycemia, which is the clinical term for an extreme pathological spike in blood sugar immediately after eating.
So, for the listener, what does that feel like? We often dismiss it as just a number on a glucose monitor, but what is the immediate physical indicator that you've experienced this hyperglycemia?
Well, it varies, but common subjective symptoms include immediate mental fuzziness, often a sudden profound thirst, and sometimes a low-grade headache or jittery feeling. Your body is in chemical alarm mode.
And why is that spike so damaging?
Here's why. That rush of sugar flowing through your blood is physically damaging the delicate, non-stick lining of your blood vessels, known as the endothelium.
That sounds like the starting point for cardiovascular issues.
It is. This damage initiates systemic inflammation throughout the body, and simultaneously, it forces the pancreas, which is already struggling with insulin resistance, to go into emergency overdrive.
It's working overtime.
It attempts desperately to pump out enough insulin to clear that sugar from the blood. Over weeks, months, and years, this constant overdrive leads to pancreatic exhaustion, accelerating the pathway toward prediabetes and eventually full type 2 diabetes.
So the research is unambiguous.
Completely. You are consuming what is, biologically speaking, a candy bar that grew on a tree.
That instant sugar surge has to be dealt with, and it has to be stored somewhere. And for a huge segment of our audience, the less active aging individual, that storage facility is the worst possible place. Let's explore the belly fat factory.
This is where we uncover the root cause of the so-called middle-age spread. Many people just assume that gaining fat around the middle is an unavoidable, natural part of aging.
It's just what happens.
But our sources are adamant. This visceral fat gain is not natural. It is hormonally driven. Specifically, it is driven by high levels of insulin, the body's master fat storage hormone.
Okay, so the insulin shows up to manage the energy from the banana. Where should it ideally go?
Ideally, in a young or physically active person, that energy, that glucose, is efficiently shuttled into the muscles to replenish glycogen stores, ready for use.
But the older, more sedentary person is often dealing with sarcopenia.
Right, the age-related loss of muscle mass. Their muscles are smaller, often already full, and more importantly, they're usually insulin-resistant themselves.
So they just refuse to accept more glucose.
The door is locked, so the body says the primary storage unit, the muscle, is full and locked. I have nowhere else to put this energy.
And where does it go?
The body's default overflow storage is the abdominal fat cell. The energy is deposited there, creating visceral fat.
And this is different from the fat you can pinch.
Very different. This is distinct from the soft subcutaneous fat. Visceral fat is the hard, deep fat that accumulates around your vital organs, your liver, intestines, and pancreas.
And what makes this particular type of fat so inherently dangerous? It's not just an aesthetic issue, is it?
Absolutely not. That's a huge misconception. Visceral fat is highly metabolically active tissue. It doesn't just sit there inertly. It behaves like an endocrine organ, a very toxic one. It constantly releases inflammatory chemicals called cytokines directly into your bloodstream.
Can you describe the kind of damage these cytokines cause?
This systemic inflammation, driven by the belly fat, is the underlying cause of so many chronic diseases. Cytokines stiffen your arteries, making them less elastic and raising blood pressure. They travel to the joints, contributing to persistent aches and arthritis. Crucially, they act as a constant irritant to every system, making healing difficult and creating a low-grade simmering inflammation that damages the heart and, of course, the brain.
And the ripe banana, according to the research, has a uniquely efficient pathway for creating this dangerous visceral fat. And that comes down to its high concentration of free fructose.
This distinction is vital for the learner to understand. Table sugar is 50% glucose, 50% fructose. Ripe bananas are loaded with fructose. Now, glucose is versatile. Every cell in your body can use it for immediate energy. Fructose is fundamentally different. It must almost entirely be processed by one organ, the liver.
Only the liver.
Only the liver.
So when the liver gets slammed with a massive, rapid dose of fructose from that banana, what happens?
The liver goes into what we can call panic mode. If you haven't recently burned through your stored liver glycogen, which is the case for most people, especially those consuming frequent meals, the liver is already full.
So it can't use it for energy, and it can't store it as glycogen.
Right. It is only one option left.
And that option is the creation of fat.
Yes. It converts that fructose directly into fat through a process called de novo lipogenesis, DNL, which literally means creation of new fat from non-fat sources.
It's a fat factory.
It is a highly efficient single-step metabolic pathway. This newly synthesized fat either clogs up the liver itself, leading to fatty liver disease, or it's quickly packaged up as triglycerides and exported out of the liver to be stored.
And where does the body preferentially store these triglycerides?
Right in the abdomen is visceral fat.
So the single decision to eat that ripe banana in the morning bypasses the muscle energy system entirely and literally instructs your body to manufacture and store fat in the most dangerous possible location. But the metabolic consequences don't stop at the waistline. This blood sugar roller coaster slams your cognition, leading us to the brain fog trash.
Brain fog, that frustrating struggle to retrieve words, forgetfulness. These symptoms are frequently misattributed to simple stress or aging.
Just a senior moment.
Right. But the data, however, connects them directly to blood sugar fluctuations caused by high glycemic foods. The ripe banana creates a rapid-fire energy roller coaster.
Take us through the phases of that cognitive roller coaster.
Okay, phase one is the spike. You get that temporary, maybe 30-minute burst of perceived energy. But because the sugar hit the bloodstream with such velocity, the pancreas overreacts.
And panics.
It floods the system with a massive wave of insulin, often more than is strictly necessary, in a desperate attempt to drive that sugar down.
And that massive insulin wave causes the second phase, the crash.
Exactly. That surge of insulin clears the glucose too quickly, causing your blood sugar to plummet well below baseline. This is called reactive hypoglycemia. Now, the brain is an incredibly demanding organ. It needs a steady, consistent flow of glucose. It can't handle these peaks and valleys. When the supply drops rapidly, the brain detects a fuel crisis.
And the brain starts cutting services to conserve power.
That's right. It jettisons non-essential high-level functions. The first things to suffer are executive functions. Your ability to focus, maintain short-term memory, and emotional stability.
And you just feel awful.
You become tired, irritable, and suddenly feel incapable of deep work. The sources are clear. You don't need a coffee or another snack. You are suffering the biological consequence of the banana you ate 2 hours ago.
And beyond the immediate crash, the long-term impact of constant spiking is what leads to glycation and permanent neuronal damage.
Glycation is a frightening term, but it describes a simple chemical process. Glucose molecules, when they are highly concentrated and unbound, start binding chemically to proteins and fats throughout the body. In the brain, this process is often described as literally caramelizing your brain tissue.
Caramelizing? Like what happens to sugar in a hot pan?
It's a perfect and terrifying analogy. You are gumming up the works. These glycated end products become sticky, rigid, and toxic. They interfere with normal signaling between neurons, contribute directly to the formation of amyloid plaques, and disrupt the overall structure and function of brain cells.
And this chronic state of high blood sugar and subsequent insulin resistance in the brain is what research now links directly to Alzheimer's disease.
Yes. Leading researchers now classify Alzheimer's disease as type 3 diabetes. It is a form of diabetes specific to the brain, where the neurons become profoundly insulin resistant and effectively starve to death because they can no longer process the glucose required for fuel.
So by repeatedly subjecting your body and brain to these massive unnecessary sugar spikes,
you are accelerating this resistance and contributing directly to long-term cognitive decline.
So we've established that the internal chemistry of the ripe banana is deeply detrimental to the aging metabolism and brain health. But when you advise people to stop eating them, the pushback is always immediate. And it's centered around one powerful marketed idea, the potassium lie.
Oh, this is truly one of the most successful and enduring marketing campaigns in nutritional history. The idea that you must eat a banana, especially after exercise or to prevent leg cramps, is deeply, almost religiously ingrained in the public consciousness.
Let's look at the actual data and expose the lie. A medium Cavendish banana contains approximately 420 milligrams of potassium. That sounds decent, but only until we look at superior metabolically safe alternatives.
And those alternatives just blow the banana out of the water without any of the toxic sugar load.
Okay, so give us an example. What about an avocado?
Take the avocado. Half an avocado delivers nearly 500 milligrams, and a full avocado delivers close to 1,000 milligrams of potassium.
1,000. That's more than double.
More than double, with negligible sugar content and a high dose of healthy fat and fiber.
What about other readily available foods?
Green leafy vegetables are potassium powerhouses. A single cup of cooked spinach provides over 800 milligrams.
Oh.
Swiss chard is nearly 100 milligrams per cup. Even a simple baked potato eaten with the skin can contain well over 900 milligrams.
So the conclusion is pretty simple.
You absolutely do not need the sugar bomb to meet your potassium requirements. In fact, relying on the banana is an incredibly inefficient way to get that mineral.
But it gets worse, doesn't it? What's insidious is that the sugar delivery system of the banana actually sabotages the very function the potassium is supposed to provide.
This is a critical point about mineral balance. The high insulin levels, triggered by the consumption of the ripe banana, initiate a hormonal cascade that forces your kidneys to rapidly excrete another essential electrolyte, magnesium.
Why is magnesium so crucial in this equation?
Because potassium helps initiate muscle contraction signals, but it is magnesium that allows the muscle fibers to relax.
So you need both.
You need both. If you are prone to leg cramps, you are typically deficient in both. But flushing out magnesium prevents the muscles from relaxing and exacerbates the cramping problem.
So you're eating the banana to stop the cramp by providing potassium, but the resulting insulin spike is actively depleting the magnesium needed to actually release the cramp.
You are trapped in a self-defeating cycle.
Precisely.
You're causing the problem you're trying to solve. The sources describe it as robbing Peter to pay Paul. But there's another side effect of this insulin surge. High insulin tells the kidneys to retain sodium.
And sodium holds water.
Exactly. So you end up with the secondary side effect of feeling puffy, bloated, and potentially raising blood pressure due to unnecessary water retention.
So the whole potassium claim just falls apart.
It is entirely invalid when weighed against the metabolic disruption of its sugar content.
Moving on, we need to address a very common, immediate, and physically uncomfortable side effect that many listeners will recognize: the gut fermentation problem.
This is particularly relevant to our target audience. Seniors often face two issues: slower general digestion and a higher prevalence of gut dysbiosis, which is an imbalance of gut bacteria, often leading to conditions like small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, SIBO.
When a ripe banana, especially one that's getting mushy, hits a gut compromised by SIBO or dysbiosis, what is the chemical reaction?
Well, as bananas ripen, they increase in fermentable sugars and certain complex fibers and sugar alcohols. These are exactly what the bad bacteria, the methane and hydrogen producers, crave. When this fuel source hits the imbalanced gut, those bacteria go into a feeding frenzy, fermenting the sugars rapidly.
And that fermentation process results in massive amounts of gas production.
Correct. The rapid production of methane and hydrogen gas causes severe bloating, intense abdominal pain, and significant distension. Many people describe looking visibly pregnant just an hour or two after consuming a banana, especially if they're already prone to IBS or chronic gas.
And the research points to a physical danger beyond mere discomfort that can even impact heart function.
This is a lesser known but critical connection known as Röhm-Held syndrome. When the abdomen becomes severely distended due to extreme gas buildup, that pressure can push upward on the diaphragm.
Okay.
The diaphragm is in close proximity to the vagus nerve, a major communication highway between the gut and the brain, and it also affects the heart.
So abdominal pressure can translate into cardiac symptoms.
Exactly. That pressure can irritate the vagus nerve or restrict the space for the heart, leading sensitive individuals to experience shortness of breath, a feeling of anxiety, or even alarming heart palpitations.
That's incredible.
The sources highlight that for anyone struggling with chronic gas, IBS, or heartburn, removing the banana can be a profound intervention, as you are simply starving the problematic bacteria of their most accessible, preferred fuel source.
We've thoroughly established the biological harm of the ripe Cavendish banana, but it's crucial to step back and ask, why is this fruit so problematic today? It's because the banana we eat is not the banana of our grandparents' generation. We are dealing with the hybridization problem.
The modern Cavendish banana is fundamentally an agricultural marvel, engineered for commerce, not nutrition. The ancestral wild banana was small, contained a lot of hard seeds, and was far less sweet. It was closer to a starchy vegetable than a sugary fruit.
So what drove the shift to this massive, sugary, seedless clone?
It was selectivity for three factors: size, extreme sweetness to appeal to the mass market, and most crucially, durability for shipping.
So it was about shelf life and profit.
Entirely. They bred out the structure and bred in the sugar density. It became a sugar stick designed to survive cross-continental transport and sit on a shelf for weeks, compromising nutritional value for commodity resilience.
And this intense engineered sweetness has a psychological impact as well, creating dependency.
Oh, absolutely. The research suggests that hyperpalatable foods, particularly those with this level of sweetness and fast carbohydrate delivery, trigger massive dopamine spikes in the reward centers of the brain, much like a drug.
So you're not hungry for it, you're addicted to it.
It causes a chemical dependency, not true hunger, leading to that daily craving that feels impossible to ignore. You are chemically dependent on the engineered food.
Okay, let's pivot to the exception we must acknowledge, which directly supports the science we discussed in Section 1, the green banana exception.
This is a vital caveat. The unripe, firm green banana should be treated as a completely different food group. It is not sugar. It is entirely resistant starch type 2, making it a metabolic ally.
And this is where the health benefits that people mistakenly attribute to the yellow fruit actually live.
Precisely. The green banana, when consumed as a flour or cooked slightly and eaten, acts as a profound prebiotic. It bypasses the small intestine, and when the beneficial bacteria ferment it in the colon, they produce a miracle compound: butyrate, a short-chain fatty acid.
Butyrate seems to be the linchpin for metabolic and gut health. How does it function inside the body?
Butyrate is a triple threat. First, it's the preferred fuel source for the colonocytes, the cells lining the gut, helping to heal the gut lining and preventing the dangerous inflammation associated with leaky gut.
Okay.
Second, it lowers systemic inflammation throughout the entire body. And third, and perhaps most critical for metabolic health, butyrate significantly improves insulin sensitivity, actively helping to reverse the underlying drivers of type 2 diabetes.
The benefits are profound.
Sustained energy, reduced cravings, and a clearer brain.
That is the crucial distinction. The medicinal benefits of the green fruit cannot, under any circumstance, be used as justification for eating the ripe yellow fruit. They are biological opposites in their function.
Complete opposites.
Now, let's move on to practical mitigation strategies for the learner. Many people who are still eating the ripe banana are compounding the damage through the disastrous pairing mistake.
This is the classic institutionalized nutritional disaster, especially prevalent in retirement communities and breakfast mix. The sources highlight the quintessential senior breakfast: a large bowl of oatmeal with a sliced ripe banana and often accompanied by a glass of orange juice.
That sounds like a picture of health, but chemically, why is it so devastating for blood sugar?
It is the ultimate carbohydrate explosion. You are hitting the body with 3 different rapid-fire glucose sources simultaneously: complex starch from the oatmeal, simple sugar from the banana, and liquid fructose from the juice.
And there's nothing to slow it down.
Nothing. There is virtually no fiber structure left to slow the absorption, and critically, no protein or healthy fat to act as a buffer.
It's a metabolic assault. The speed of that triple glucose load sends blood sugar readings straight into the danger zone.
It accelerates the postprandial hyperglycemia we discussed earlier, maximizing the insulin response and thus maximizing the fat storage signal.
So if there is a severe dependency on the banana and someone cannot cut it out immediately, there is a pairing rule to dramatically mitigate the metabolic harm.
Yes, the cardinal rule is never eat the banana alone and never pair it with another quick carbohydrate or juice. You must pair it with protein and healthy fat.
And this isn't just a suggestion, it's a mechanical necessity.
It is. Protein and fat are sensed by the stomach, triggering hormonal signals that dramatically slow down gastric emptying.
So it slows the whole process down.
It releases the contents much slower into the small intestine. This deceleration of delivery means the sugar enters the bloodstream slowly, stretching the absorption time from maybe 20 minutes out to an hour or more, smoothing out the insulin spike.
Give us some concrete examples of a better pairing, even if it's still suboptimal.
Eat half the banana sliced into a bowl of high-fat Greek yogurt, which is loaded with protein, or pair it with a handful of walnuts or pecans, which are high in healthy fat. Another great option is consuming it alongside a hard-boiled egg.
The fat and protein act as a necessary buffer.
Yes, ensuring the damage is minimized.
And even with that pairing, the size of the modern banana is still a problem, leading us to the portion control strategy, the half rule.
A modern Cavendish banana is an enormous fruit. It's genetically engineered to be large, and it far exceeds a single sensible serving size for a sedentary individual.
So the strategy is simple.
Cut the dose in half. A half banana delivers half the sugar load, directly resulting in half the insulin spike.
We can also control ripeness.
Absolutely. By choosing a banana that is still yellow but maintains green tips, you retain more of the beneficial resistant starch structure and minimize the sugar conversion. Actively train yourself to prefer that slightly firmer texture and avoid the mushy, brown spotted versions entirely. That small change protects your pancreas tremendously.
Finally, before we introduce the healthy alternatives, we must address the smoothie trap, which maximizes the damage of the banana.
This is a major mistake, especially among those trying to increase fruit consumption. When you blend any fruit, especially high glycemic ones like banana or pineapple, you mechanically destroy the fibrous structure.
So blending effectively removes the body's only natural defense against rapid absorption.
That's right. You turn a solid food into a pre-digested slurry. The gut no longer has to work to break down the fiber matrix, meaning the sugars absorb instantly, even faster than chewing the whole fruit.
So a banana smoothie.
A banana smoothie, particularly if you add fruit juice, is functionally a sugar injection. If you must make a smoothie, use low glycemic, fiber-rich options like berries, use half an avocado for creaminess, and use water or unsweetened nut milk instead of juice. The banana must be left out.
Okay, we've effectively
Huge
laid the
Cavendish.
groundwork for why the yellow banana must go. Now for the solution, the high-value
Here you
trade.
go, my love.
We are going to provide the low glycemic fruit protocol. What should the learner be
thank
trading
you.
that
It
yellow
looks
sugar
delicious.
for to upgrade their fuel quality?
We need to pivot toward fruits that are high in fiber, low in net sugar, and rich in specific phytonutrients that actively protect the aging body and brain.
Let's begin with champion one, berries.
Berries, blueberries, raspberries, blackberries, strawberries are the undisputed champions for longevity and metabolic health. They rank incredibly low on the glycemic index, meaning they barely perturb blood sugar levels, making them perfect for insulin-resistant individuals.
But their power is truly in the specific compounds that give them their vibrant color, right?
That's the magic ingredient, anthocyanins. These are the dark pigments that make blueberries blue or raspberries red. These compounds are remarkable because they are small enough to cross the critical blood-brain barrier. Once they are in the brain, they perform an essential cleanup function.
A cleanup function specifically targeted at age-related decline.
Yes, they actively scrub away the inflammatory plaque and mop up oxidative stress, lowering neuroinflammation. Studies show that seniors who incorporate berries daily have measurable cognitive functions and memory performance equivalent to individuals many years younger.
And you can eat a huge bowl of them.
You can eat a large bowl of berries for the metabolic cost of just half a banana. We call this the blue medicine.
Moving to champion two, citrus fruits.
Grapefruit, oranges, lemons, and limes. These are metabolic powerhouses. They are rich in soluble fiber and, of course, vitamin C, which is crucial for collagen production, maintaining the elasticity of blood vessels, and combating aging skin. But chemically, they also contain high concentrations of a compound called naringenin.
What is naringenin's primary role?
Naringenin is a powerful flavonoid that has a beneficial effect on the liver. Given that fatty liver disease is endemic, naringenin helps the liver switch its machinery toward burning fat instead of storing it. It enhances the function of those metabolic pathways.
And the rule we established earlier applies here, perhaps most critically. Eat the whole fruit, not the juice.
Oh, absolutely. The medicine is the white pith and the fibrous segments of the orange. If you squeeze it into a juice, you remove the fiber and deliver pure liquid fructose, negating the metabolic benefits entirely.
And a quick caution on grapefruit.
A necessary caution. Grapefruit is known to interact with numerous common medications, so if you're on heart or statin drugs, check with your physician first.
Next we have champion three, stone fruits.
Peaches, plums, apricots, and tart cherries. When eaten with the skin on, these fruits provide a moderate sugar load balanced by a high fiber and nutrient profile. They're great seasonal replacements for the heavier tropical fruits.
And the specific benefits of tart cherries are worth noting.
Tart cherries are fantastic for two reasons. They are one of nature's best sources of natural melatonin, promoting better, deeper sleep. But they also have potent anti-inflammatory properties that have been clinically shown to lower uric acid levels, significantly reducing the risk of painful gout flare-ups.
So again, a huge benefit without the downside.
A huge benefit without the metabolic wrecking ball of the banana.
And finally, the undisputed leader in this protocol, the one the sources refer to as the anti-banana, the avocado.
If you were making one single swap for longevity and metabolic stability, this is it. The avocado is technically a fruit, but it is the antithesis of the banana. It contains almost zero sugar, is packed with soluble and insoluble fiber, and is dominated by monounsaturated fats, which are highly protective of cardiovascular health.
And let's reiterate the potassium count. It's massive.
Nearly 1,000 milligrams of potassium in one fruit, delivered without any insulin spike whatsoever. Replacing your morning banana, which delivers sugar and inflammation, with half an avocado provides the same volume of essential potassium, but with stable, anti-inflammatory, pure healthy fuel.
It's the single best trade the learner can make to improve their metabolic health immediately.
So having made this profound shift away from the yellow sugar, what is the cumulative effect on your body? The sources clearly define the benefits of this metabolic reset as rapid and life-changing.
You gain stable blood sugar throughout the day, which means that crushing 11 a.m. energy slumps, the brain fog, and the general irritability are eliminated. That is an immediate improvement in cognitive performance and quality of life.
Digestive issues clear up almost immediately because you have starved the problematic gut bacteria. Bloating and distension diminish rapidly. And most importantly, because you have pulled the powerful hormonal trigger of high insulin, your body shifts from fat storage mode to fat burning mode.
So you actually start to lose weight.
You lose that dangerous visceral fat, not through calorie deprivation, but by removing the hormonal block that was preventing your body from accessing its own stored energy.
The conclusion here is that the ripe banana is a relic of an old nutritional understanding. A food that might have served a subsistence farmer or a professional athlete, but is fundamentally mismatched for the modern aging metabolism. Health requires consciousness. It requires looking at that yellow fruit and realizing that trading it for the blue medicine, berries, or the green medicine, avocado, is the smartest fuel upgrade you can make for your longevity.
By choosing low glycemic fruits, you are clearly signaling to your entire endocrine system that you want to burn fat, not store it. And you are ensuring a steady fuel supply to your brain, optimizing for clarity, focus, and long-term health rather than fog and decline.
We have spent this deep dive exploring how the modern Cavendish banana was selectively bred and engineered over decades for maximum sweetness, massive size, and shipping durability. This process fundamentally changed the fruit from a high fiber starch to a high sugar commodity that actively harms the aging body. So here is a final provocative thought for you to consider as you survey your own pantry or fruit bowl. How many other common health foods, the modern equivalents of apples, grapes, or other hybridized produce, have been similarly altered by the agricultural industry over the last century, making them fundamentally different, far higher in sugar, and potentially detrimental compared to the ancestral food they claim to be? What else in your diet is engineered for commerce but not for your health?